Are you aware of the frequency in that you are running energetically? The frequency that not only is running your own experience, but that is broadcasting out to the world and attracting back to you your experience? Not a lot of people do. They understand the world is made of energy. That's becoming more common, more accepted, but not understanding what frequency and vibration are can really still leave you in the dark. My name's Sonia Choquette. Welcome to my channel. I am a transmitter of frequency. I channel and send out a transmission of the fifth dimension, the highest frequency. That's what we're going to do today. And I'm going to break down for you the different signatures of frequency so you can recognize the frequency you're in, and if it's not one that serves you, how to quickly change it. So if you're new to my channel, I really welcome you. And for those of you who have been my weekly subscribers and who have been coming and staying with me, I thank you so very much. You are keeping our channel alive. You're keeping this conversation growing, and with me, helping a lot of people elevate their life experience, open their hearts, connect to your guides, connect to your divine power, your authentic self, and manifest with real skill and ability to be successful. So I'm so grateful and thank you. Now let's dive into what frequency are you in? What are the different frequencies? And how do we change them? There are three primary frequencies that I'm going to focus on today, although they are not all inclusive. There are others. But this frequency that I'm going to talk about is the third dimension frequency, which is the dimension that most people operate on. It's the dimension where we are primarily running our consciousness through our ego. We stay in a generally low-grade, fight or flight, fearful position mentally. We are aware and feel as though we are alone, and we try to bond and connect and find different places where we feel more secure. Those bondings will be in our personal relationships, maybe in group thinking, maybe in certain consciousness that you share with others. But in the third dimension, you're really in a separated state where you feel that the only thing that's real is the physical reality and that anything beyond that doesn't exist. These are the people who often say, I believe in science, although science of today no longer acknowledges or it sees that the physical world is the only world. The other thing about the third dimension is it's really run by your ego. So consider each frequency equaling each dimension like a radio station, one that both receives and broadcasts vibration, and with that comes information. So when you are in the third dimension frequency, you're in your head a lot, you're in your ego, you're talking to yourself a lot, you're feeling isolated, very insecure, easily triggered, easily challenged, misunderstood, righteous sometimes, lost. I'm just giving you the different signals of where you're in the third dimension, because this dimension is low level, so it can't really pick up all there is. It just picks up the densest vibrations, which are the physical vibrations, and it can leave a person feeling very isolated, very disconnected, very uncertain, and anxious. So if these are your primary feelings, and if you have a lot of opinion about others, I call this the otherizing frequency. It's me against you. You scare me, you annoy me, you're not like me, so you're the problem. And in this frequency, we can never feel safe or relaxed. We may have moments, but because we're not really dialed into or connected to our authentic spirit, our true self, we are trying to bond and find security in things outside of us. And that is something that isn't effective. We might for a minute share, for example, a common opinion with someone, but eventually we'll not agree, and then we get into a real insecure state. This reminds me, I'll give you some examples. I have a client who is pretty self-conscious and insecure, feels a great need to either be right all the time or feels very challenged. And she had bonded with another friend at school. She had bonded with another mother where her kids attended school. And she found that their common ground was they agreed a lot. They talked about other people as being different and they were special. And they shared a lot of opinions and spent a lot of time differentiating why we're not like them, which went along for a while until the one mother who was single got a new boyfriend. And the new boyfriend, all of a sudden, her best friend bonded with the new boyfriend who shared very different opinions and outlook than her. All of a sudden, he was very, very political and he was very righteous and he was a bit misogynistic. You know, men are right, women need to be weak. And her friend just morphed before her eyes. And all of a sudden, they weren't sharing any kind of a common bond. So then a lot of stress and collision. And the next thing you know, they're not friends at all. And then within 3-4 months, they're outright enemies. This is a common unfolding of the third dimension. Temporary bondings that eventually fall apart. You feel again isolated, misunderstood, betrayed, violated, alone, agitated, wounded, confused, and then you start looking for something else to bond with externally. It's an exhausting frequency because you find no rest, no peace. Some of the other indications of a third dimension is you're really tired, very tired, or you're really worked up, or you're very addictive. Might be to alcohol, might be to drugs, might be to scrolling, looking for yourself, looking for something to bond with. That's another big addiction. It might be for shopping. It might be for eating. Anything to fill the void that you are legitimately feeling that says you're not connected to yourself. So that third dimension frequency is very off-putting because you're defended. So the frequency is don't get too close. You know, it's almost like you have your arms folded over, you know, a person's folding their arms and pushing you away feeling. And it also conveys a bit of a fake vibration. You're going to feel like you're talking to someone, but even if they're super nice, you're going to feel like this is a false front. There's something about it is blocking and pushing me away or projecting something that doesn't touch my heart. So these are some of the signatures. Now, when you're in the third dimension, you're not very powerful. You exhaust yourself because you're not connected to your source. You feel you can definitely exhaust yourself mentally going round and round and round in your head. I have another client that I was talking to, and she said probably 30 times in our 45-minute conversation, well, how can I be sure? How can I know? How do I know I don't make a mistake? How do I know if what I want to do is going to take care of me? Because she was very disconnected from her spirit, very third dimension. She felt very unsafe in the world. And the how do I know was an attempt on her ego's part to reassure that anxiety and that fear. It's a dead-end road. Now, the fourth dimension brings some relief. Let's imagine we're going from AM radio to FM radio. And when you get into the fourth dimension, you really start to connect with that there's more than meets the eye. That is the biggest indication that you're raising your frequency to a higher dimension. You become interested in learning. You are actually quite available to finding new information, new ideas. Then in the fourth dimension, I call that the earnest student dimension. Maybe that's where you are now. You know there's more to meets the eye. You intuitively sense that there's a better way to live. You're tired of feeling tired and alone and afraid. Or maybe you're really feeling alone and afraid and you really are motivated to find a way out, to some relief. So there's a receptivity mentally. There is an energy, a motivation to learn. There's an effort to become better informed. So you're sort of going from what do I bond with? I know I need to bond with something, so let me get some new ideas. And you might try ideas on, you might try on filters. You might, for a while, say, I'll go Buddhist for a while, and then maybe I'll go spiritual, and then maybe I'll join a church, and maybe I'll read a lot of books and get more into science and subconscious mind. And all of it's very, very valuable because you're informing yourself of more subtle energy and more expansive energy. And you don't quite feel secure, but you're encouraged. You feel hopeful. You feel like I'm on a treasure hunt. I'm on my way. Energetically, you're also starting to feel a connection with your authentic self. You're starting to feel, not think, feel in your body and in your heart that this resonates with me. This feels congruent with who I am. This gives me peace. This gives me relief. This gives me some inspiration. So the fourth dimension is where a lot of people are right now because they're seeking. They know the world is changing. They know the human being is changing. We are evolving from a very dense kind of hunter-gatherer, me against you, very, very material and ego-driven to a more expansive and more open mind. That's a big indication of the fourth dimension frequency of an open mind. I'm able to consider new ideas. I'm able to consider that what I know is not all there is to know. I'm able to listen, and I'm starting to get in my body. In the fourth dimension frequency, this is where you might want to be, all of a sudden, I should meditate or I need to exercise and I have to stop scrolling and this doesn't feel right. And my mind I'm tired of being numbed out and I don't want to be agitated. I want to find my way toward a more peaceful state. So this is a very exciting frequency to be in. It is the beginning of an attracting frequency. The third dimension is repelling. You won't find, that's the nothing works out for me frequency. That's where you never find the parking space. You can't find your keys. You don't connect with people. You run into a lot of arguments. You're very alone and tired. You're demoralized. Where in the fourth dimension, you start to attract. You start to attract things to you and books and people and conversations, and you get excited. You start experiencing synchronicities. That's another big indication that you have now come to the fourth dimension. And in this dimension, your mind is open and your heart, you're starting to connect to your heart. What do I care about? How do I feel? Does this feel not right or wrong, which is very third dimension? Does this feel true? Does this resonate? Does this feel harmonious? Does this feel good? Does this quiet my mind? So the fourth dimension is an extremely busy frequency, but it's exciting, it's attractive, it brings in new things. There's a lot of starting the beginning of real connection, first to self and then to people who share this quest for growth. And this is just so exciting that you don't feel dread. You start to feel curious. You start to feel inspired. You start to feel excited. You start to feel possibility. You start to feel that I have an influence on how life goes. I actually can create my life. You don't quite know how, but you are deeply invested in learning. Now, in the fourth dimension, there are some other things that are really signatures of the fourth. In the third dimension, you accumulate. I want more, 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 more. More time, more stuff, more distraction, more scrolling, more food, more drinking. I'm trying to fill the fear and void. In the fourth dimension, you start to be discerning. I want less. So all of a sudden, you start noticing things that you own. You start to notice things in people that you're around. And you notice, this doesn't feel good for me. I don't want this. So this is also what I call your purge frequency. You start emptying your mind of fixed ideas. You start emptying your environment of things that don't feel good for you anymore. And you start noticing whether something fits or not, whether it resonates. I had a client who clearly went from third to fourth. She was in big third, going through a very bad divorce. Both she and the man she was divorcing were quite alcoholic, although they were what we call nice alcoholics. There was never any total loss of control, but just always in an inebriated state, defensive, snarly, anxious. When the divorce started, it was a big fight over who gets what stuff and money and who's right and who's wrong. But she eventually, with some encouragement as we worked together, realized, I got to stop this. I can't just blame him. I can't blame everybody else. So she started meditating. She started praying. She stopped drinking. She started being aware of what she was eating. All of this over a period of a few months. But eventually she said, you know what? I don't want to fight over anything. I don't want anything. I want to let it go. So she started not only stop the divorce fight, but she started actually saying, I don't want this. I don't want the house we were in. Now, she was in a position to live more simply, but she realized that all of that just was heavy energy she didn't want. So if you find yourself suddenly, rather than accumulate, you sort of want to discard, cut the cords, and not be in the same energy that you've been in. That's a clear sign that you have entered a higher frequency. And this is the beginning of an attracting frequency. This is where if you start doing a vision board, or you work on your subconscious mind, or you start envisioning what you want, you actually have an opening to start pulling those vibrational matches in. This is where you get it. So like, oh, my energy determines my experience. Now I need to learn about that. So this is a big immersion period, exciting, but can be a bit overwhelming. You can still say some days, I don't want to think about it. I don't want to learn anything. I just want to be myself. And that's very acceptable because we learn and change our frequency in increments. So what'll help you go to the fourth dimension, believe it or not, are some very simple things. Do a purge. Go through your house and go through your stuff and go through your car and go through your purse and remove things that bum you out. And don't let your logic brain interfere. And make it simple. Don't need to always get something from what you give. In other words, you don't have to start an eBay account for every little thing. Give it away. Let it go. You're opening the energy and you'll feel the energy. The other way is to, instead of watching the news, which is very third dimension, bum you out, build up your defenses, scare you to death, listen to music or podcasts that are really uplifting, like this, where you're informing and you're opening your mind and you're letting go of fear and anxiety and defense. And the other thing is pay attention to a couple basics. Are you drinking enough water? Because if you're dehydrated, you're going to go massively into third. Are you breathing? Most people are like, fight or flight, and they don't breathe very deeply. And that also puts you in a low-grade state of fear and anxiety. Be mindful of what you say. When you're one of the most powerful determinations or determinants of what your frequency is from your own voice. If you're complaining and you're attacking and you're criticizing, you're pulling yourself into a very dense, isolated, powerless third dimension frequency. It's not going to get you anything. It's going to make you sick. So another big tool of the fourth dimension expansion is listen more and don't talk. Just be mindful and don't hop on the wagon train of a negative conversation. In fact, here's a real stretch, and you can report back. Please do. Don't complain for 24 hours. Now, that might be seriously too far for a lot of people, but don't complain for an hour, and then maybe a morning, and then maybe a day. Maybe then we extend through complaints through dinner, increments. That's how we calibrate up. Now, what are the benefits of the fourth dimension? you just feel optimistic. You're not frightened all the time. You're too busy learning and expanding, and you feel motivated. You know, third dimension can be very unmotivated. I'm depressed. I can't do this. I don't want to. The fourth dimension is I'm in the game. I'm going for it. The other fourth dimension indication is that you do generally feel less anxious. You do generally feel more self-aware. Now, you might bring yourself out a bit in spurts here, like constantly paying attention. This is another tool for you in the fourth dimension is to journal. And I have an excellent journal, the Trust Your Vibes daily journal. Guided journal will really help you start to become aware of where your consciousness goes, because it is your consciousness that determines your frequency. It is where your mind dwells, where it stays focused. And this will be helpful. Plus, the guided journal I have is a bridge to the fifth dimension. And here we want to hear the choir of angels, because it really does feel like that. Guess what? The biggest signature of being in the fifth dimension is you get out of your head and you come back to living more in the moment. You feel good in your skin. You're present and you like yourself because you have realized the self that I am. It's not my ego. It's not my external self. It's not my accomplishments. It's my spirit. And you start focusing on your gifts and the things you love and your just beautiful divine nature, and that your uniqueness is all the more reason to be lovable. The critical mind stops. Can you imagine? That alone is worth aspiring to, raising your vibration to the fifth dimension. And you all of a sudden become very available to good things. You become very connected to your manifestation powers. You are open. Now you've cleared the noise, you've cleared your decks, you've let go of the stuff that doesn't serve you. You're available to receive new things. So in this frequency, you're also available to receive intuition, inner guidance. You're bonding with your spirit. You know, intuition is not something you have. It is the broadcast of your spirit, your true self, your divine, powerful nature. It is the real you. And when you're in the fourth dimension, it goes in and out. You're dialing in and out and a lot of noise and a lot of, how can I be sure? But in the fifth dimension, I just know. That is a very clear indication. Now, it'll pop in and out. You know, you might just have those moments where I know what I know. This is absolutely what feels right and true for me. It's not about what's right for everybody, but for me. And you find that you have you have deep, greatly reducing tolerance for being in frequencies and people and situations that don't feel good. You just can't be there. In the fourth dimension, you can be there and you're aware, this isn't for me. And you look for your escape hatches. But in the fifth dimension, it's like, I'm out, not for me, no explanation needed, I'm good. And you feel confident to love and take care of yourself. Your mind is quiet, your heart is more grounded, and you start to get in touch with who you are, including your gifts, your talents, and you don't measure them by world standards. I talked to a woman client that was so lovely. I did an intuitive guidance session with her about 6 months ago. She was in a wrong job, but she knew it, fourth dimension. She was not interested in being fearful. She wanted a new job, and a lot of people said, you're older, there are no jobs. She was interested. She was in her late 50s, knew she'd get a job, not worried. And she said, I just want to find my purpose. And I said, well, your purpose is that you are a healing force in the world. And she said, well, I don't do any healing. And I pointed out to her, healing isn't a hands-on or a medical caretaking thing. The definition of healing is to feel whole again, to help people feel good about themselves. And if you're a healing force, you have that impact on you. Well, I said, just focus on what you want and your inner guidance will get you that job and it'll feel really good. Well, within 3 months, she got a new job, and it was with a company that was creating alternatives to medication for pain relief. Now, if that's not a healer's job, what is? It was very innovative. It was very much getting concurrent with what energies of what we're learning now about pain and suffering, which very fourth dimension. And she got a job where she was training a team to go teach places and people how to impart techniques for healing that were more natural and holistic versus pharmaceutically driven. Now, she loved her job, went from third to fourth, learning to fifth. Now she's just in the flow, traveling around the world. And she loves traveling and sharing this guidance. And we were talking, we were laughing because she said, I'm just teaching people about vibration and how to love themselves back to pain-free life. And I said, well, if that's not healing, what is? She's so funny. She said, I never thought about it as healing. I just thought about it as teaching, but it is healing for me too. And that's a very indication of the fifth dimension. So how do you get into the fifth dimension? Surprisingly, it's very easy. Now, my first tool is the one a lot of people have zero interest in, but it is the most effective. And that is to turn on the music that you love, that speaks to your era, that gets your mojo going, and dance. Like really get into it, because when you dance, the divine spirit you takes over and your mind goes quiet. A lot of people are out of their bodies and don't dance, but that's the first and most powerful. The second is sing, because you're singing your throat chakra open, your heart open, where your spirit lives in the fifth dimension, and you express. Another way is to just for 24 hours say and fill in the blank, I love my morning. I love this coffee. I love my dress. I love seeing you. I love this beautiful day. And consciously and intentionally experience eyes through the commitment of love, and use the language of love. You might feel fake, but you'll change your vibe really fast, and then you won't feel fake. You'll feel in love. That's what the fifth dimension is. The other thing you can do to get into the fifth dimension is to check with your heart and say, my spirit says, or my guidance says, and name it out loud. And then follow it. If it's true guidance, you'll feel peaceful. You'll feel congruent. Talk about this in my book, Trust Your Vibes, and Ask Your Guides. You'll also start feeling the presence of your guides. And believe me, that's a game changer, because the total difference from third dimension to fifth is you don't feel alone anymore, because you're not, and you never were. You just didn't know it. So you can get to pray, be grateful, speak positively, offer loving feedback to people. All of that is instant fifth dimension. And the reason why it's so easy to get to the fifth dimension is that's your home base. That's where you started out. That's where you belong. Now, you have to keep your mind out of it by saying thank you instead of how I can be sure, which pulls you back to the fourth. So the frequency of the fifth is the miracle-making frequency. When you start saying thank you and I'm grateful and I love, then you can also say, I am successful. I attract the money I need. I attract the partner. I attract the home. I attract the parking space. I attract whatever it is you're seeking. And bam, it comes right in. So that's a big motivation. And if you're not attracting, that's an indication you're in the third. If you periodically attract, that's an indication you're in the fourth dimension frequency. And if you're instantly one after another going, I don't know what's going on, but suddenly I'm living a very charmed life, that's an indication you're in the fifth. I have a wonderful free online course called The Answer is Simple. And I'm going to put this in the notes here where you can get, because it is based on my New York Times bestselling book, The Answer is Simple, Love Yourself, Live Your Spirit. This free course is 21 days to the fifth dimension. I really feel compelled now. My higher self, my guides, the emissaries of the third ray, which I channel and will be back with very soon and start channeling and transmitting the fifth dimension frequency. They really want us to get this quickly, and especially now. It's a tumultuous time, and you want to get out of the third dimension fast because that's where all the drama is. You don't need to be there. You can rise above. And these are the tools. My ask your guides, or sorry, I don't even know. The Trust Your Vibes Guided Journal, big tool. The Ask Your Guides book or audio, real fifth dimension conversation. Trust Your Vibes, fifth dimension. In my book, the answer is simple: love yourself, live your spirit. But let me give you the free 21-day course. So you'll find the information in the notes, and please tell us and share your experience of these different frequencies. Can I tell? Do I know? If I'm stuck, rather than being upset, I'll change the channel. I'll go to a higher frequency. Ask for help, pray, meditate, call in your guides, and say thank you in advance for helping me. That's going to be a big, big plus for you. We need to get to the fifth dimension, guys. Now is the time. This is actually a call to transformation. This is a time to quit sitting back and self-selecting out. So stay with me. Please give me a thumbs up if you found this useful. Better yet, subscribe, because the transformation moment is now. And my guides are coming in. I'll be doing more transformation channeling, more transmissions. And a lot of this was a transmission because I'm sending out the joy and the confidence and the energy to lift you up. So please subscribe. See you back in a couple of days or next week. And thank you, my beautiful friends, for being a part of this community. Tell your friends. I don't want anybody to get left behind and stuck in drama. Let's all be a drama-free zone. That's the biggest indication here in the fifth dimension. All my love, guys. See you next week.